to the RandomPower hackathon. It's really a pleasure to get this coding marathon started. It's a pleasure actually to have the support by the people at GlueOnNet. It's a pleasure to have you with us. So RandomPower, I will tell you a little bit more about it, the essentials about what we're doing. But before we start, let me say that the support by Attract, this European Commission initiative, made it possible. So RandomPower has been selected as one of the 170 breakthrough projects out of 1,211 that were submitted. We got reasonably good funding, we got support, we got in touch with a lot of people, including GlueOnNet. And GlueOnNet is actually our partner in the organization of the hackathon. Of course, we have partners beside GlueOnNet, and we have also to thank the people in the companies and in the institution that were really making their precious time available for making this event interesting, not only for what you're going to tell us, but also because of the speeches, the keynote speeches that we're going to have. So this RandomPower, we will learn a little bit more. Certainly is a project which is involving complementary skills and knowledge. And we have people from Quantum Financial Analytics, which is our business partner. We have people from AGH, the University of Science and Technology in Poland, with our high-level electronic people and microelectronics designer. We have Nuclear Instruments, another small company, but very, very active again in the sector of nuclear fields where we come from. And definitely my alma mater, my university, Università dell'Insubria in Como. We are going to have speeches by Intesa San Paolo today. I will tell you more later. And then tomorrow, it will be the time when we have people reporting by the Nagra Kudelski group, by INFER, that are companies that are supporting the initiative. And also, we have a speech by a researcher which is associated to the CERN Open Lab. Actually, CERN is important for us. We also have the support by the Idea Square at CERN. CERN is the place where we were born, where scientifically I grew up, where I spent 10 years of my life, where I'm still in touch. I guess most of you know what CERN is. CERN is the house of the biggest scientific instrument ever built by mankind. This is the house of the LHC, the big accelerator, the merry-go-round machine, 27 kilometers in diameter, where particles traveling at the speed of light, they crash one beam against the other. And this is where we look actually at the dawn of the universe. This is the place where the Higgs particle was eventually found. Now, before we actually go into the details of the competition, let me tell you a little bit about RandomPower. RandomPower is a novel concept for generating virtually endless stream of random bits out of the quantum properties of matter. And now, what do you do when you have random numbers? Essentially, you can do a lot of things. The primary application is certainly in cryptography, in what is making secure our digital life. And actually, you know that the RSA and essentially any protocol is relying on keys. And keys are making secure your house, they are making secure your digital life. And you know that the cryptography is essentially based on the fact that you have a pair of keys, that these keys are actually generated out of gigantic prime numbers. You know, if you consider, for instance, 20,000, say 2048 bit keys, actually think about it. It's like having 1 followed by 600 zeros. So they are big numbers. They have to be big to be secure, and they have also to be random. They have to be randomly chosen. When I say random, I mean essentially that they are unpredictable. Now, what you do with that, you can also make insecure images. And we know that actually sharing in a secure way images is essential. This is something that is strictly related to what we do. You see also reference to the people that were proposing these cryptographic keys, which is based actually on random pattern of white and black pixels into an array that has the same size of the image that you want to encode. So where do we enter in such a process, for instance, is in generating exactly the pattern that you use for row scrambling, for column scrambling, and then for diffusion, that is to say, for changing in a random way the grayscale of every pixel. Now, what do we have to do actually with cryptography, with gaming, virtual reality, IoT? You have to ask yourself, standard ways to generate random numbers, are they secure enough? So there are a lot of people that are saying possibly not. Now, let me go back. You know, as I do, that actually you can easily generate random numbers through algorithm. But you know, an algorithm is by definition deterministic. So if you compare deterministic approach and stochastic approach, you see that there is something which is clashing. And indeed, the pseudo-random number generators, so software-generated keys through algorithm, are by definition, because of the algorithm itself, not truly random. And moreover, even if they are practical, they are cost-effective, and they are relatively easy to implement. They suffer from irreducible problems. So the first one is that if you know the parameter of the algorithm, if you know actually the seed, then you can in principle predict the full sequence. I mean, what is then you know, and the Debian example is something that maybe you are aware of, that you know the code that can be bugged. And of course, if the code is bugged and the space of the keys that you can generate is shrinking, then you know that you are in trouble. But for me, the main disadvantage of the pseudo-random number generators is that they may have a backdoor. And if you have a backdoor, then you can really, your digital life can seriously be in trouble. And you know, for instance, that there was an attempt by the NSA in the US to force the adoption of a PRNG that definitely had a backdoor and they had the keys to it. So what is saving the situation is the fact that you move from the pseudo-random number generators to the true random number generators. If you want to boil down the principle, actually, this is essentially coin flipping. But the coin has to be fair. If you use a fair coin, then whether it is head or tail is absolutely unpredictable. But you have to be fast, and you have to make sure that actually you do it properly. Now, there are also interesting ways to generate numbers in artistic point of view. And this is what I'm referring to. This is an artist that François Morellet made a painting that made him very, very famous and also reasonably rich. What did he do? He actually asked his family to open in a random way the New York telephone directory and to read the telephone number. And depending on the fact that the final digit was even or not, he was painting one of the pixels in his tableau in one corner or in the next. Then he had quite some success. He made a certain number of painting based on this approach, and he had good selling. You can see them in the MoMA in New York, you can see them in Amsterdam, you can see it everywhere. So they made him famous, and it was a nice process. It's an artistic point of view. The only problem is that it's a bit slow. And to paint actually in either of the colors, the pixels of this 40,000 tableau, 40,000 pixel matrix took him, possibly not full time, about 2 years. So it's nice, it's good, it's genuine random, it's a bit slow. So what we do actually in RandomPower is something similar to Morellet, but we do it rather quickly. So essentially, we do it in silicon, and what we can do is actually painting one Morellet table in about 40 milliseconds. So from 2 years to 40 milliseconds, there is definitely a gain. And how do we do it? Actually, we do it in silicon, and we do it mimicking the very first attempt to generate random bits in a quantum way, using the statistical property of radioactivity, but without radioactivity. So let me tell you shortly how historically this is done. Say that you have a radioactive source, and the radioactive source is actually illuminating your detector. So anytime the source is spitting off, is emitting a particle, then this is hitting the detector, and you get a pulse out of your system. So you have the time series of the pulses, which is actually connected to the detection of the radioactive decay. Now, imagine that you have a possibility to stamp, to properly identify each of the pulses. And then you stamp them, and you even know when they occur. Now, if you do so, there's a trivial way that I can tell you shortly to get a random bit out of this unpredictable series of pulses out coming by a radioactive source. Say that, for instance, you open a gate. This is the track of an oscilloscope, and your gate starts from here, and it's ending to there. Then you are counting the number of pulses, a little bit mimicking what Morellet was doing. And if it is an even number, then you set the bit to 0. If it is an odd number, you set the bit to 1. This is very possible. It's not so bad. I'm not sure that actually is the best that you can do, simply because you know that actually the underlying statistical process is Poissonian. And so you know that actually when you're counting a small number of pulses, Poisson distribution is asymmetrical with respect to odd and even. So you have an asymmetry in zeros and ones, which is not what you want. So you want actually to full asymmetry, either you make the time window very long, which is decreasing actually the bit rate, or you use an enormously active radioactive source, which is not something that you want. And so again, it's good, it's nice, it's good for science, it's not very practical for the implementation. And again, it's certainly not practical because you don't want to have actually a radioactive pulse, radioactive source in your pocket. Now, what we are doing is something where we mimic the same behavior, but we do it actually essentially in silicon. So this is something well known since the early day of the silicon technology. And what is known is actually that if you have a dedicated structure operated at the boundaries of the breakdown, there are, because of the stochastic generation of the carriers, which is driven actually by the quantum properties of the solid state silicon pill that you're using, there are occasional or say frequent current fluctuations that appear in the form of pulses, very, very similar to what you have when you're illuminating a sensor with a radioactive source. But it's done essentially in an endogenous way in silicon without radioactivity. So based on the quantum properties of the semiconductor, where based on the advances of the silicon technology, what we are profiting from the random on-off current fluctuations, and we analyze in a proprietary way the time series of the pulses in a more robust way with respect to what I told you, in a proprietary way, and we get the extraction of the bits out of a silicon pill. So this is essentially what we do. It's our IP, and you want to be protected in your IP. And what we did, we filed in a patent application. The patent was actually granted in Italy. It's now been extended, is in the international phase of the extension through the Patent Cooperation Treaty. And we will enter actually the national phases in the foreign countries in spring 2021. Now, which are the advantages of what we do with respect to all the other existing solutions? As I said, we have an endogenous seeding of the pulses in silicon, which is giving us an extreme simplicity of the process. And then we have self-amplification of the seeds in excess of a factor 1 million, which is making tagging of the pulses very, very robust. Then what we do, we don't open windows, we look at the time series of the pulses, and we make a non-parametric analysis, which is very, very important because, again, you want to have robustness. we have a situation where the system that we engineered has maybe a dependence in the bit rate on the temperature, but certainly not on the randomness of the occurrences. Then what is really outstanding with respect to any other solution is that we look at the raw data stream. We apply no post-processing at all and tested through the NIST, National Institute of Standard and Technology test suite. We can claim that actually the randomness is guaranteed. I mean, all this is giving us an extremely high efficiency. And so we get actually 2 random bits out of every pulses, with an efficiency at the 40% level, which is one of the highest ever. Now, currently, we operate from, say 100 kilohertz to 1 megabit per second rate for every millimeter square of silicon sensor. And the good point here, we see where we are, and then thanks to the silicon technology, we believe that actually in a couple of years, what we are proposing can really be embedded and miniaturized into an ASIC, so in a system on chip that we can engineer. Now, who are the people that are actually behind us? So say the idea and the inventors are at our department. It's me and a few collaborators. And we come by fundamental research. We were, as I said, part of the CERN paper. I worked for 15 years in an experiment that was called Delphi, that was working at the Large Hadron Positron Collider. And then when I moved back to Italy, I diverted a bit from basic research that I'm still doing and enjoying to more applied research. And I've been working and leading a series of European Commission funded projects. The first one was named Tsushima, and it's back nearly 20 years. Then I got Rhapsody, then I got Modes, then I started collaborating directly with companies. And you can see here some of the companies my team is collaborating. It's Hamamatsu first, which is one of the top companies related to photonics. Then AWE, which is the agency and the company working in Homeland Security in the UK. Chromec is another company related to the Homeland Security world and digital imaging in the medical field. Then we have Sincel and K-Tech that are producers of some of the structures together with Hamamatsu that we use for generating system. Kain is one of the top companies in the world related to the electronics for particle physics. And then it was relatively easy for me to get in touch with people with whom I was collaborating and build up the consortium at the base of RandomPower, where today we have, as I said, my university, complemented by AGH, the University of Science and Technology in Krakow, and they are top-level chip designer and firmware programmer for the FPGA at the heart of what we're doing. And then we have Nuclear Instruments, as I said, a very competitive small company located not far away from where we are, which is very important. And then we have Quantum Financial Analytics. Now, where are we? This, we qualify the system and the principle in the lab. Then in order to prove it that actually we could do well, we engineer a demonstrator. You can see it here is based on commercially available system, including the time-to-digital converter by Texas Instruments that we use to timestamp and analyze the time series. We qualified actually the bit stream using as I said, the suite, which is the reference by the National Institute of Standard and Technology. We did well and we had a lot of fun, but this was a demonstrator. And so we had to go beyond, and we did it. And essentially, we could do it thanks to Attract. Attract, as I said, is a European Commission-funded initiative. It launched about a couple of years ago a call for proposals. And the call was intended to select the breakthrough ideas, to support them for increasing the technology readiness level, and to bring them to the stage where it could either access the market or step up. So we had 12 and 11 submission. They selected 170 breakthrough project, and actually we were part of these top-level guys. And this was essential because we got about 100,000 euros invested. And thanks to the investment, we could really go from the demonstrator to what we currently call a minimum viable product, which is actually the random bit streamer that we will be using during the hackathon. It's a nice little board. It's smaller than a credit card size. We can go to some of the technical details. The footprint is actually 8 centimeter times 3.5. It comes actually also with an FPGA, which is controlling the functionality of the chip. The two little pillars that you see down there are actually the generator themselves. And the FPGA, which is controlling the system, is also embedding a proprietary time-to-digital converter, which is able to tag the pulses with a resolution of 50 picosecond. 50 picosecond is not bad, it's not a world record, but it's enough. The essence of the algorithm that we implement is not so much in the precision, 50 picosecond is good, but is in the accuracy. We qualified with a work that was keeping us busy for nearly 4 months, the algorithm in order to make sure that we had no systematics in the time stepping, which is of course essential to properly balance and guarantee the unpredictability of the screen. In the board that you see, we also have an FTDI chip, which is steering the pulses through the USB to the computer and to the platform out of which we will provide you the streams. And actually, I enter a little bit into the details. Originally, the hackathon was planned to take place at CERN. It would have been fantastic. The people at Idea Square were ready to host us, but unfortunately, we are living horrible times, and we had to make the event fully online and remote, which is offering is an advantage because we have teams that are joining in from several parts of the world, but certainly being there live at CERN would have been fantastic. But again, I can tell you that as long as we are off these horrible times, we will do our best to organize a visit to the lab. Now, what we do is will be technically described after my speech. Now, this is where we are. Where do we intend to go? Actually, I can tell you that we are considering creating a spin-off company. We had already the approval by the universities, and this is our roadmap. Now, in 2021, we want actually to do our best to exploit the little board that you could see on several markets, and we are doing that also being assisted by NG Consulting, which is a top-level technology broker. Then we qualify the bitstream using NIST, and not only, we also have a partner, which is important in the Czech Republic, doing external auditing and qualification of the streams with a different test suite. But we would like to have also an official certification. I don't think we need the FIPS 140/2, but we need to have qualified. And we also want to enter, as I said, into the national phase of the IP. This will keep us busy in 2021, and in order to be able to do so, we need an investment of about another 100,000 euros. If we get a little bit further out, and this will be 2021, 2022, we want actually to grow up and to develop a multi-generator platform that will be ideal essentially for the, infrastructural application. And we also want to develop some entry-level application. I will tell you more in a second. Then, if we manage to do well, we want actually, and this is our final goal, which is requiring higher scale investment, we want to embed all of the functionalities that you currently have on the credit card size board into an ASIC, into a chip. This is something that we will possibly do also competing for the phase 2 of Attracta. And at the same time, we want to go on silicon, and we want also to target and to develop actually higher level application. And what we have in mind is actually the full homomorphic encryption that will possibly be made faster by the RandomPower platform, because we know possibly what is full homomorphic encryption is actually an encryption system where we have the possibility to do analytics on the encrypted data. which is offering, of course, in terms of privacy preservation, a lot of advantages. In full homomorphic, you need the random numbers not only for generating the keys, but in the process itself was actually making implementing the cryptography. So this is where we do see a clear advantage in the use of the RandomPower platform. Now, to be a little bit more precise, what we want to do actually in terms of hardware, we want to go micron. As I said, integrating all of the functionality on a chip. We want to grow up and to go macro, scaling it up to multiple generators. And we also want to go secure. And this is where the collaboration with the people that are the mathematicians that are located in the Czech Republic is essential, because we want to embed into the FPGA a real-time sanity check. Then, as I said, we want to address high-end application, and FHE is the name of the game. And we also want to go some bread and butter application. And for instance, once we are qualified and certified, we want to offer the platform for gaming and gambling. Then at the same time, and we want to try replacing the Linux RNG. We want to prepare libraries and the software development kit. And we also want actually to, and we started already to develop algorithms for efficient prime number extraction and key generation. And notably, and this is what is related to you, we want to be open to unpredicted application. And this is how we got the idea of launching the hackathon. There is nothing else than looking at the people that are on the subject, that are very likely to see something that we cannot say, and are possibly proposing something that is relevant, it's interesting, and something where we were really aiming and targeting to involve you in this fantastic endeavor, which is RandomPower. Now, and money is also important. And so how are we funding actually what we are doing? As I said, the seed capital came by the Attract phase 1. Then this is something very, very fresh. Essentially 1 week ago, RandomPower was the winner into a startup competition, which is named Startup Lombardia, where it was #1 out of 165 projects. We got little funding and we got a lot of visibility, which is important. We got already 3 investors that have been knocking at our door to say, here we go, can we work together? And what is even more important, that by being the winner, we will step up from the regional phase to the national phase. So by the end of November and early December, we will defend RandomPower in a national competition. And then all this together with building up a consortium that we already started, and some of the companies that are giving keynote speeches will be actually working with us. We will be prepared and submit another proposal for the phase 2 of the Attract that is targeting essentially the chip development and the system on chip development. Now, this is it. I've been rushing a bit. I've been maybe too fast, but the idea was to give you a glimpse about what we're doing and to welcome you really on board and ready to go. Now, I stop sharing and I hand the floor over to Carlos, who is going to tell you actually how you can access the, this is Siddharth who is asking. I think so. I think if you go there, if you go to the op that was mentioned, Siddharth, you will see that actually, yes, you should have the majority, all of the information in the web page, in the app that was quoted by Carlos. There you have, it's again been displayed, and I think you have everything in there. We provided also decoding routines as exemplary illustration, as he said, for both MATLAB and also for Python. So whatever is your language, you have what is required. And then, as I said, we built up a pool which is deep enough so that you can have a lot of fun. And for whatever reason you want small chunks live, then again you use the second link that is being addressed by Carlos. And so you have both options depending on the applications and depending on the on the size or the chunks that you need, you can profit from both. So I would say if we have no further question, okay, I see the Siddharth now is happy enough, which is okay. I would say I wish you really a lot of fun, and don't miss actually the keynote speeches that are complementary to the fun of coding. And the first one is going to be European time at 1 o'clock. And he will be one of our key supporters of the initiative. So it's a key person at the team of Intesa San Paolo, which is a bank and a financial institutions devoted actually to innovation, that will give a speech at 1 p.m. So log in, enjoy, and if you have any other, Carlos will distribute actually the links to the different teams. So you have, you know actually which is your identifier, and then have fun. And we will be back to you at 1 o'clock.